kickstart the session and to give background to a lot of the conversation we'll be having today as well, could you tell us some interesting things about your growing up, your background, and your story that lead up to here, so that you can have that sort of a contextual background to it?
Stories evolve. How did the founder of Apple said something about you can only understand life when you look at it backwards and see how the thread connects. I started as a pharmacist, not in my wildest dream would I have imagined I would do telecoms or banking. In those days when you were a pharmacist, you would think of working in the pharmaceutical industry where I started. But I've had to adapt over the years. And I think that's something very important to also share with your group. Life opportunities will not always present itself the way you expect. When I joined the pharmaceutical industry many years ago as in Glaxo, then the Nigeria was going through its first generation of forex crisis that led to the exit of the pharmaceutical industry that were resident in Nigeria. Naira was crashing. I always tell the story that when I was going as a medical rep to Benin City from Lagos, the price list of my company of Glaxo changed 3 times between Lagos and Benin City. And because of that, like I said, many of the companies left, and I had to, and it created the opportunity for the pharmaceutical industry shrank. And a lot of us had to adapt in terms of developing new skills. What I found was that my marketing skill, the marketing skills that I've learned, became a bridge for me to adapt to other opportunities as they were evolving. So I moved largely using my marketing to cross into other industries like healthcare, like broader healthcare, to telecoms, continue to expand, land strategy. From strategy, I learned retail. And retail, from strategy, retail, land technology. So that's a common thread, always adjusting and learning and building knowledge at the adjacent of my core so that I can connect to broader opportunities. That's how I've been able to travel across sectors and keep learning all the years. I hope you don't, most of you don't see it as very confused. I think for your generation particularly, is a skill that you must all have. You cannot just start with something. You must keep learning and expand at the adjacent of your knowledge to connect to the broader opportunities of life that life will give you. Thank you.
What has been your leadership style? What makes people want to stick with you to say, you know what, I want to continue working with Olu?
I would think it's about bringing out the best in them. I think the role of a leader is to make people to discover their best potentials that they did not know they have. One of the key strengths of a leader, a good leader, is to be able to see in people far beyond them. And that would be a common thread. I can look at my career in the pharmaceutical industry, in healthcare, in telecoms, in banking, and see a series of leaders that I have produced or that have been produced through the interactions that we had working together as a team. It's also very true, and I think I've lived it, that the most important task of leaders is to produce other leaders, because that in itself embodies a lot of things. It means you have to replicate your good skills in the people that work with you. And there's an advantage of that. When you do that, you are able to go for higher duties of leadership because other people can do what you do. And you make them better people. They discover their potentials. And I think that's a common thread. Get people, like that story, I always give that story, when a soccer player scores in a football match. Apologies to our ladies because we're talking soccer, but before we go, good analogy. And that player runs to the coach when he or she has scored, and good, I think women too also play soccer, and say, I did it or we did it. That is leadership, because that player did not know he or she could do it. That's what leaders do. Make people to discover the best for themselves for higher calling.
What will a typical conversation be like? Okay, can you give an example of a typical conversation? We want to learn from that, yeah?
A typical conversation, depending on the situation, usually will be around the purpose of where we are gathered. If it's business, it will be about, of course, there are set goals in terms of performance that will be reviewed from time to time, in which our conversations are largely going to be hinged around. So will be about how are we doing? What is the progress on X or Y? And in the process of that dialogue, there will be, this is what I've done. These are my challenges. This is what I'm trying to fix. Well, that is good. First, to encourage, you're doing this very well. Then if there's an area where you feel something needs to be added, and do it in a very constructive way. Or have you thought about, have you considered? So it's not even something like, go and do this. Have you considered this? Do you want to reflect on? In a way in which the subordinate, the member of the team, feels that he or she is discovering the solution himself or herself. And when people do that, they feel accomplished. They own the idea themselves. They feel they have done it. Of course, with the leader behind them, like a beacon pointing the direction of where they need to go to them. So the self, so that would be a typical conversation. And sometimes it could also be a conversation around values. Sometimes things could be challenging, and therefore we have to make choices, and you have to point the team or the subordinate back to the purpose of the business, the values that we have that should guide us in the choices that we need to make. So that's what it should typically be. And where you have time, ask one or two personal questions. How is your family? Those little things, they matter, because leaders must also show that they care for their people.
In one of your videos, you talked about, just hinging on this current flow of conversation as well, you talked about vision being one of the major rallying points for a leader. But when you think about us that we're having this conversation with you, a lot of us are probably 5 or 10 years into our 5 years or 10 years into our career. I don't think there's anybody even up to 10 years yet in our career. So in a way, we are probably not in the place to, quote and unquote, set vision. But what are some of the other ways in which you can use in motivating? And of course, we have a responsibility for leading. I mean, we already have a responsibility for leading other junior colleagues and also. What other ways do you think we can use in motivating, rallying people around to bring the best out in them?
In terms of vision, I think what we described in that series around a vision that inspires. We talk about something pictorial. One of the things leaders need to do is, how do I create a vision that will make my people to want to wake up in the morning and get to work? And that will be because creating a vision and a sense of purpose that we are collectively doing something bigger than ourselves. So let me illustrate this story. I always illustrate this when I share things around something in the subject. The story of 3 builders on the construction site. And they were asked what each of them were doing. One said, I'm molding a block. The other one said, I'm building a wall. The third one said, I'm building a cathedral to glorify God. The zeal, the dexterity, the energy with the third person who sees a bigger picture of what they were doing would do and mold the block in terms of detail will be very different. because he or she could see something bigger than what should be ordinary thing like molding a block. So I think one of the big things about leadership is about how we create that a sense of imagination of a picture of a destination that inspires everybody together. So I would define leadership as vision, as an imagination of a distant destination. And David, I must say, you also made me to reflect more on some of the things I've shared. And I will share this further with your group, that a vision is an imagination of a distant destination, a pictorial expression of a mission. That imagination is like an idea from where we are, but that imagination of what is ahead that can inspire people is driven by purpose. So the power of imagination of creating a vision, because one of the things you also asked was, what's the art of creating a vision? And I think it's also a very interesting question. The art of creating a vision that inspires is driven by purpose. Purpose is the engine. So in anything that we're doing, even if you are in a warehouse, can you find a way to link it to something more meaningful, something bigger than all of us, that will make an individual to say, I'm building a cathedral, I am changing the world. And there are three things which we also discussed in that video about, I talk in the context of, in several areas, being altruistic, changing the world, excellence, let's do something, let's become the gold standard of management consulting. Let's become the gold standard of engineering practice. Those are the kind of things that lift people up, that they are doing something beyond ordinary. And yes, there might be need for transactional rewards once in a while. But like I've always mentioned in those videos, those series, the things that endure in terms of inspiring people are the things that are transformational, that are altruistic, that are driven by a bigger purpose. Let's change the world, a gold standard of excellence, and those kind of things. That's what will make people want to wake up. They are doing something bigger than themselves. And it's the responsibility of the leader to find and build that picture that inspires people.
Going back to the topic of leadership, how do you build a healthy team culture? Especially because often you probably have to have difficult conversation. You have to tell people they are not working to par one way or another. How do you build a culture where having difficult conversation is comfortable, where you can tell people that you know what you're not doing up to par is comfortable, and things like that?
When leaders do this, what you asked very well, you could end up with a conversation in which your subordinate feels grateful for this difficult dialogue. And the first thing is, do not demean the individual. You are genuinely interested, and you can't pretend. One of the things about leading people is that people can see through you. You can't pretend about the values that you preach. If you're truly genuine about helping, I want to help you so that you can do better, that's a conversation, and you are not demeaning the individual, then you can have a very honest, genuine conversation. It can be frank. And conversations could be things like, we want to discuss what we have done. I can see that we've achieved A and B, but D, C, and F have not been achieved. That's something, the way that sentence is framed, there's something important there. It is called constructive criticism. Unfortunately, not many leaders have it. Constructive criticism is the art of balance. I can see you've done A and B well, but there are gaps in D, E, and F. When you have that balance, the mind of the person receiving the conversation is open. It's different from you have not performed. You have not done D, E, and F. I can see nothing good in you. But when you say, when you are constructive about it, Then you now invite what are you going to do to address the D, E, and F that has not been achieved? So you are even actually probing the gentleman or the lady or somebody or your colleague to throw up and reflect on what they can do better. And the art of listening, and as they are going along, to begin to add, have you considered? What about? Have you read? Do you want to? Do you want to reach out to? Have you considered improving on your relationship with your stakeholders? Have you then the individual, the subordinate begins to build the solutions themselves and they own it. And when they finish, we can set goals, and over the next 3 weeks, let's agree on the things that needs to be done. And they leave the meeting with a sense of respect. Their dignity has not been drawn to the ground, and they truly want to go out of their way, not to disappoint a leader who could see well, but you could do much better. And they truly want to go and deliver. And it does not have to be hard. So that would be a method or a kind of practice that I would do in my circumstance.
Yeah. So my question is, how can we lead ourselves better? Of course, ultimately, when we lead ourselves better, it benefits the society, it benefits people around us, and of course, it benefits us. But yeah, how can we lead ourselves better?
So the heart of leading self, it's first is that we discussed having a sense of duty, a sense of the weight of the office. That's just a key summary of that art of leading self. You can't lead yourself. To lead others, you got to lead yourself. And it starts from what's the purpose, what's the duty, what's the weight. Do you understand the weight of the office? And no one can lead you. When I was reflecting on the question you asked, no one can help you to lead yourself. Leading self is more of a self-reflection question about what's the sense of duty of this office? Why am I the CEO at this time? Why am I the head of department at this time? Why am I the chairman of our community association at this time? And so it's a lot of self-reflection. The only thing I could add there is that if anyone has any particular challenge of self-reflection, maybe you need to find a sounding board to dialogue with, someone that you trust, where you can pour your self-reflection to. But a lot about leading self is about your own self-reflection. So your counselor might help you. The other thing about leading self, as I reflect on the question you asked, is that one way to manage it, one way to lead yourself, it's also maybe write a forward story about yourself 2 years into the duty of the office. So if you are the head of the department or the CEO or the new director of that division, and you have a 2-year tenure, write a forward story of what you would like your 2 years to look like in 2 years ahead. And that will create a sense of the duty, the things you need to accomplish from you so that you can lead yourself first and lead others. So I think those are some of the things. A forward story about what you want to accomplish will help in terms of reflecting on the question of the duty of the office, the weight of the office, so that you can lead yourself properly. You should know when you are messed up. The worst, very interesting to go back to that question. The worst part of leading self is when people are completely clueless about the sense of duty of the office, or the sense of weight of the office. So when a leader has messed up and they don't know, and that's part of the thing, people mess up their office, people mess up their duty, they underperform, and they don't even know because they are clueless. They lack deeper self-reflection, to a bigger purpose, a bigger weight of the duty. So those things about self-accountability, sense of duty, they're all very.
Have you had mentor? Have you had a mentor before? How did you maintain relationship with the mentor? What sort of profile does the mentor have? Is the mentor your peer group or someone higher or whatnot? Because I know one of the things that our generation is really interested in is mentorship. But there is this thin line of how do I maintain that relationship? When I call someone my mentor, what is expected from that relationship?
Mentors, there are many mentors that we need.
Okay.
Especially if your needs and potentials are very broad. It's unlikely, I think, in my view, that one will say there is one mentor. There are people who you look at how they have built great families, for example. They may not be your professional mentor. So you look at them as a role model of how the kind of family you want to build. There are people you also see on your professional world who could be your mentor. And there are also people generally in the community, in the society, that could be role models. Mentoring. So in my way, I think I've had different role models. I like to call role models rather than mentors, because of different kind of needs that I have. And some of them may not necessarily be close. Like, you could also have people you admire, you role model from a distance. Because in this very busy world, the concept of someone that you go to see all the time, who sits down with you, you may not be able to have it, but you can role model them from a distance. And you could take advantage of the few opportunities you have to dialogue with them, to draw from them. So that's what I have done more than mentor. But I think some of us may do need, because I think there are people that struggle with self-accountability. I've seen that a lot. So they need people they can go to be accountable, to tell them that this is what I want to do, and so that those people can ask them whether they have done it. I have not struggled with self-accountability. So maybe, so that's why I use more role model. But I think it's important also be self-accountable. I must say, role models too does not mean people will also do things right all the time. Role modeling, or you can call it role or modeling, is also a way to learn. In my career, I've learned far more from managers who did not do well than managers who did well. Maybe in terms of the people I reported to, maybe I would say out of 10, there will be 20% or 2 or 3 that will say, will be my role model. I would like to be exactly like them. But 7 out of the 10 will be people who also learned that if I had opportunities, I would do something differently. So also watching the people who lead you in your environment, and also seeing the things that could be different, that could be done differently. In terms of reflection is also a way to also keep learning. So role modeling and role or modeling, maybe we should call it that. Maybe some of the ways to learn. And you can find it too in the same person. The 1 or 2 have done well, but in certain circumstances, maybe this could be done differently. So it's not exactly to follow everything that your role model is doing. Also be a self-critique of the people that you are modeling their role.
Moving on from that. So delegation is probably one thing that inevitably one will have to do. How do you decide what to delegate? You're a leader, you're giving everybody responsibility. You have 10 people within your team. What's that thought process that goes into that?
Delegation is very important. You need to delegate as much as possible. If there are things others can do in your team, let them do it. Because it means that you can focus on the critical things that are left, that are bigger, and you can do them excellently. But delegation does not imply an abandonment of responsibility. When you delegate to your subordinates, have a dialogue of expectation with them and ask them how they are going to do it so that you prepare them to take on the assignment. It is a poor leader that delegates an assignment. You probably have not even had a conversation of expectations or of how it's to be done or the issues that need to be managed. And you come back 3 months after and you say, I delegate XYZ to you, you have not delivered. That is not fair. At the end of the day, if the duty is not performed, it is still yours because your team looks poor at the end of the day. And I see the meetings and I see leaders who will say things like, I told them that they did not do this. And I just say to myself quietly, this is a very poor leader. This guy, or if this team had performed, he or she will have taken responsibility for it. When the team has not performed. So I told them that they told them. Yeah. So you see, this is a poor leader. I see that a lot in terms of leading people, in terms of teams and so on. Leaders they take responsibility for their team, even when they have not performed, because they know that, okay, this is my team, my guys have screwed up.
Looking at it, it appears we have more bad leaders than good leaders. And I think, at least that's the anecdotal perception that an average person we have. Here and there, we hear more about bad leaders than we hear about good leaders. Why do you think there are more bad leaders than good leaders?
That's very true, because the world would be a much better place if leaders were all good. They struggle to make the world a better place, to build better organizations, to have better societies, better countries, better communities. Is all because it's like a lot around the fact that we do not have those leaders, that we have the mix of leadership is not perfect. I think part of the reasons is leadership is first and foremost grounded in core values. Leadership is first based on moral values. The foundation of good leadership is the morality values. And it starts from things like common good, altruism, let's make the world a better place. Selflessness is not about me, it's about the community. When that is missing at the foundation of personal value, would lack selflessness, will lack common good, will lack the principle of the greater good of all. And when there's a lack of decisions for the greater good of all, there will be problem of trust and many things begin to go wrong. Leaders that push for the people that they need, it all starts from the foundation of values, common good, greater good of all, selflessness. Those are some of the very key things that are foundational. So we need to go back to issues of values in society, because if good values permeates more naturally over time, the kind of leaders that be produced will be better leaders than we have today.
Let's go to the other part of a leadership thinking process, which is the decision-making part. And we start from your decision to leave FCMB as a director and join a startup, Opay. How did you think through the process? What were your considerations? And let's start from there.
Yeah, when I was in consumer banking, retail banking, one of the things that I've always been concerned about the issue of responsible banking. And I am a very strong advocate of responsible capitalism, responsible business. It is not just about profit. It's about the impact of what we do on society. That we can build businesses that are able to better balance profit and purpose. That we can build, some of the conversation we've had about vision, purpose, that inspires beyond profit. In the conversations and that leadership series, those videos, I discussed things like, you don't inspire people by saying, I want to do 150 billion profit.
Yeah, I remember.
That doesn't inspire people. Yeah, that's a very transactional thing.
Let's change with milk and honey.
Exactly. Let's build land flow with milk and honey. Let's build a product that will make every mother get the best out of their children. Let's build a product that will make every parent. Those are the things that inspires people. So what I see in moving to OPay, the financial inclusion purpose of OPay, talks about is about a business of purpose. How can we use technology to include more people in modern financial system so that we can lift more people out of poverty and get a Nigeria that works for many more people? That word, a Nigeria that works for many more people, is something that I echo constantly. So that is something that draws that drew me in this direction, to do something that better even balance business and even though yes, we were doing a couple of those things at FCMB, but in financial inclusion, Nigeria needs it so badly. Nigeria is not working for a lot of people because the opportunity of the modern technology financial rail excludes them. We can do so much more with the technology available today to expand opportunities for many more people. So that is the draw. And on the personal side, having done telecoms, having done banking, moving to fintech just sounds like a thread that connects different things that I've done together. And when God's plan, we follow it as it comes. So
basically, if you wanted to teach me decision making, what do you have some decision making framework? Do you have probably some thought process about how you think about it, or how will you teach me to make a decision for myself?
How far you will go is a function of what you know, your knowledge, and who you know. It is what I have learned in reflecting backwards, which I should share with you so that you do it much even better. Knowledge is great, but two people of the same knowledge, one having a better network, your second person will travel much further. So the opportunity in decision, if you're changing jobs about, should be, is it going to expand my learning? Then is it going to expand my network? If the two are right, and the pay is fine, pay is important, but pay is not as important as those two. So if you are on the same job and one of jobs comes up that expands your learning opportunities and your network in terms of who you'll be exposed to, go for it. But those are the two key considerations, because later in your career, you will monetize big time those two things, your network and your knowledge. And you cannot build it at that time. It is what you start doing now that will matter. It could come at any time. I mean, if monetization comes with knowledge and network, why not take it? But the question is, if monetization, money, comes with a job in which you are young, you are not learning, and you are not building network, eventually you won't travel further than that job. Then it might not be worth it. It might not be worth it. So that would be the way to look at it. Knowledge, network, money. They should follow. They are all important, but in terms of order, knowledge, expand my knowledge. That's why for many of you who are into consulting, one of the good things consulting does is that you are learning, and you're also in a networking, which over time, when many people go into the world, they go into different places, and you keep part of that network. All these things do matter. If you work, for example, a corporation with a big name, if you are in engineering, you work for a Schlumberger or a Shell, for example, you are connected to knowledge And that network of people that are ex this, ex that, is also a network that you continue to connect to. Those are the things that matter. So when you are making a choice about jobs, that company, that institution, if you're not working for yourself, and some people are entrepreneurs, so it may not matter, they may not apply. But that question about this organization, will I learn? Will I expand my knowledge? And will it give me a network of opportunities now and into the future? If it is right, that is the place to be, because the reward will come big time. And if it pays you well, why not take it along with it? In my case particularly, I'll refer you to, I have a podcast. I think it will be used because we're talking about this. I call it Continuous and Adaptive Learning for Good Careers.
I've listened to that.
It's called Ulu's File. If you listen to it, what I discussed is, because I've had to jump from industry that I felt was shrinking and use a bridge to move to a bigger space. So there's learning as opportunity. I think what I could add to that is adaptive learning. Learning adaptively to your opportunities. So because I started as a pharmacist, but I was in sales, I was a medical representative. So sales became my bridge to marketing. Marketing became my bridge into learning strategy. And those become my bridge to moving outside my industry, because I am no longer seen as a pharmacist. I'm seen more as a marketing, solid, excellent marketing professional who could travel, who could adapt to different industries. So one of the things also about learning is also not to learn narrowly. Your biggest opportunity for learning is learn deeply, but also learn at the adjacency of your core, because your opportunities to expand your opportunities is at those adjacencies. So, for example, I was doing retail banking, but I learned technology in retail banking to the point in which, because I had to learn it to engage my tech team in banking, and I was comfortable with technology that I could now cross to fintech and have technology conversations. So, you see, consumer banking, technology was at the adjacency, but technology becomes, the adjacency can become your bridge to other opportunities. So that is also something very important as you are building your career. Learn deeply, but also learn at the adjacency, because they can be the bridges to bigger expanded opportunities for your career. So that will be something to throw into the bucket.
Like, how do you handle criticism from a subordinate? And just rephrasing, like, how do you handle unflattering feedback from a subordinate or a direct report?
It takes a lot of humility. They are not pleasant if you have it. But one of the things we should also have as leaders is humility. We are not all perfect. And we should, even if you do gra-gra, when you were hearing it, when you get back to your house, or when you are doing your morning walk, or when you are running on your treadmill, reflect on those things. There might be substance in there for you to learn. That's what I would say about it. Take some of those feedback as an opportunity to keep improving on your managerial skills. And if there is an opportunity to also ask for, I want to exactly understand, how exactly do you mean? What could I have done better? If you also have an open team, mature team, they will give you very constructive feedback, because you also give them constructive feedback. There was a point I was trying to make. I think you miss this perspective, but I am the only one who could see it, because that's my expertise. But unfortunately, I was not allowed to put it on the table. It was shut down. I mean, that's something to learn in the future. One of the things in that series is issue of perspective. I think one of the lessons there about when you are a leader, what you are seeing is what is in front of you. But and that's your frame. Someone on your right or the left may be seeing something different. And a leader should never assume that the frame that they have of issues is complete, because it's just a frame, because you are just the direction you are looking. There's a direction on this side and the direction on this side. and the humility to take those perspectives will make you a better leader at the end of the day. When you do that, based on the collective wisdom of the team, you also, everybody, you feel better. You accomplish bigger results than you could have done on your own. So leverage it well. Leverage it well.
Okay, because you mentioned podcast again, I'll just go to the question of what top 3 books do you recommend for us to become a better leader?
I think that's one of the questions you asked. I have to go back to, of course, I've read different ones, but the 3 books that came to mind in terms of just looking back, what did I remember most? There's Posner and K-O-U-Z-E, Kuzi, I don't know how it's pronounced, Kuzi, K-O-U-Z-E-S.
What I will do is probably get a lead from you as well after the call.
It's called Leadership Challenge. When I read it many years back as a young manager, I found it extremely very useful. I've not looked back at it, but I remember the time it was extremely very useful for me. Then later on, as a senior manager, senior person, when I read John P. Cotter, Harvard professor, that book, very small book, What Leaders Really Do, I found it extremely profound. What leaders really do. I found it very, very profound. The other one, which I think will be useful for a young manager, will be Warren Bennis on Becoming a Leader. That will be also a very useful book. But a lot of the things which I also shared, however, my own reflections based on the things I have just learned from experience. So what I would say is that my reflections are not those of professors. Those guys are probably professors or consultants. But the things I've shared are just like the things I learned like a soldier.
Anecdote from experience, like a soldier. Yeah. Balancing vulnerability as a leader. You talked about it already as well when you said humility. It has a lot to do with vulnerability. How do you value the vulnerability? I mean, you're still human being at the end of the day. You just have that leadership responsibility. How do you balance that and still maintain trust? And your people don't see you as weak. They don't lose confidence in you. They still think they can work with you.
Vulnerability does not mean one is a weak leader. In fact, confessing your vulnerability as a leader can help you to build trust with your team because it communicates that you are real, you are honest. So vulnerability does not mean you don't have strength. And in putting your vulnerability out there with your team, it is to have conversations like, these are my strengths. These are the things that I do well. These are the areas in which I will need your compliment, you to support me. Analytics is not my strength. I'm a pictorial picture person. When we are making this presentation, I will start from the big picture. When we come into the financial analytics in terms of return on equity calculations, I would like you as CFO to step in there and take the presentation, take that portion of the presentation. Now, in that wise, you create authenticity, you create trust, you create I need you, you create bonding, you create a sense on the team that they are making a value contribution to you or to the team because you are not a know-it-all. So being vulnerable is being real, is being authentic, and people are much more drawn in terms of trust to real people who are not pretentious than to people who are pretending that they are perfect. It can't be perfect. The thing is to know what are your strengths as a leader, and everyone has. One of the things we discussed in the series was about how you build a team on the complements of the strength of members of the team and not their weaknesses. Where my strength complements somebody else's weakness, where somebody's weak, where my strength and somebody's strength complements my weakness. It's the same thing for a leader. So vulnerability is not a problem. We can put on the table along with our strength and call for complement me here. And you will have a more subordinates or team members that feel that I'm doing something valuable. This is how I support my boss in terms of his performance as chief executive. This is my hero. The guy is feeling very accomplished in his own space because I am the numbers guy in the team and I do this very well. I am the guy who I'm the guy who knows the code, who will decode it. That's my role. When it comes to that, they turn to me. That's what leaders do. You draw them out to say, you take charge at this point because that's your expertise. It is not a problem to be vulnerable. So let's be real, let's be authentic.
Top 3 podcasts. Anyone that comes to your mind. It doesn't have to do with leadership, just anyone that comes to your mind.
With top 3 podcasts.
Yeah.
My top 3 podcasts, I have a lot of things I'm interested in. I'm interested in economics and public policy. The London School of Economics public lecture series is my top one. Even for the ones they've done 3, 4, 5 years ago. There you find the best thoughts in economics and public policy from time to time, Nobel Prize winners coming to LSE. The good thing these days now with technology is that you don't have to be in LSE to be part of to listen to those lectures and so on. So that will be one. There is the several times I keep going back there. There's Oxford University Critical Reasoning series, about 6 lectures about critical reasoning. I go back there from time to time just to touch up when I'm beginning to forget. Keep learning because all these things apply. If you are a leader, one of the things you are dealing with is things like logic, reasoning, challenging thoughts, reflecting on thoughts. So the ability to also learn how to think and reasoning also helps you in terms of decision making, because you ask a question about decision making. Yeah. All these things are an art. They are different arts. So learning is everywhere in different places. So those are the top 2, and sometimes it also changes from time to time depending on technology. For example, the A16Z podcast. I think I found it very useful. Sometimes when I want to reflect, what's the latest conversations in tech, for example. Different things from, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so another question here, and I think it's actually very important and very relevant, is what should young professionals not do when starting their career, when it's not their desired field? Or probably what the person is trying to say is, what should they do? So a lot of people should start from their career from what they are not particularly interested in. But because, the situation where they find themselves for whatever reason, they've just got to start there. How should they navigate that, basically?
You find what you are good at and gradually move your trajectory towards that space. I understand practically in Nigeria today or wherever that we may not always start from what we are good at. But I also think we will discover ourselves along the line. I can also share a story about myself in terms of this very interesting question. Yes, of course, I started as a pharmacist. When I was in the pharmacy school, in my first years in the university, even though I was in pharmacy, my friends were in social sciences and I was active in campus politics. I found it more interesting then. And later on, I found pharmacy boring, even though I was graduating pharmacy. I found this discussion of social sciences far much more interesting. And so I always knew something that maybe pharmacy, I don't know. But I was there and I enjoyed it. But when I started in Glaxo, I noticed that I was drawn to not the guys who were seniors in sales. I was drawn to marketing managers in the head office who will come with graphs to tell us this product is performing. And I found those analytics much more interesting than than the sales part of the job. So I naturally, those guys became more my role model. So I naturally gravitated, discovered the marketing. I didn't know marketing until that time.
Okay.
I already discovered the path I was supposed to follow, which was more marketing and sales. So I also say that when you start, discover yourself as you go along and develop the skills along with that. So I went to take an MBA, develop more of that marketing skills, and I used that as a way to move on to other things. So we will never get what is perfect, but we can adapt to it based on our own authenticity, or adapt to life based on our own authenticity, as long as our learning also support the path that we want to take.
Because someone has asked already as well, that do you have any current role model, and why are they your current role model?
Like I said, there are different role models. Let me not embarrass them by mentioning that.
That's all right.
There are different role models. There are elderly people that when I have the opportunity, I learned wisdom. The fountain of wisdom that they have. You spend 1 hour with them. The one that said to me, Quo Vadis, question.
Okay.
Where are you going? Quo Vadis was the question I think Peter was asked, but it has become a movie for some Roman films about Nero and something. But there's a life question that some mentor, Roman asked me, say, Quo Vadis, where are you going? That big Quo Vadis question also asked us. Let me also, in terms of passing it on, also put it to you, because Quo Vadis, they are not answers you may find now, but there are things to continue to reflect on about the journey of life. Quo Vadis, that was what elderly man of wisdom asked me that day, and I also passed it on to you in terms of paying it forward. Quo Vadis.
Where are you going?
Where are you going? Yeah.
Everyone who will be listening to this later on, where are you going? So we've talked about basically, how do you handle non-constructive criticism from a leader? So you're a subordinate, the leader is giving you criticism that's like out of the blue, like from year to year kind of criticism. How do you handle it as a subordinate?
Like we said, we discussed it earlier. If it's genuine, let's reflect on it. But there are also instances where if they are not genuine, you also need to give the feedback that, fine, I've listened to you, but yes, this is right. But they are also, because there's also something about leadership, it's situational. There are situations where you do not have to be a Mr. Nice Guy. So I want you to also get me right. It's not about being the Mr. Nice Guy. There are times when you need to be firm. These are the boundaries. This is the task. This is the minimum expected of us. We set the rules. This has to be delivered. So I would say situational, but in all things, be humble. But where is important to be assertive in terms of your office, also do that, because sometimes the fulfillment of your role is based on your assertion of that role. There are times when you have to say, deadline is by 12 midnight tomorrow. This task must be submitted. There's no nice guy about it. You must say it and say it firmly, and there should be consequences. If it's not done, that's part of what leadership is about.
I've asked questions as well, so thank you. Is there any other thing that you want to leave? I mean, you've left us with Quo Vadis. Where are you going? Is there any other thing that you want to leave us with before we wrap this up?
So I think keep your network, keep learning, and build your network, adapt to life opportunities at the adjacency of your core while you are learning deeply within your core. A lot of opportunities that will come across your way may be at the adjacency of your knowledge. So keep expanding your knowledge and your horizon. The other one, of course, is there's something called grace. Some people call it luck, whatever it's your motivation. Call it whatever. Grace matters, and also seek for it, because it also multiplies these things that you have sown as human, and make them germinate. The other thing is, we can all make the world a better place. Be the difference in your area. Connect what you do to that big picture. And if you have an opportunity to lead, connect it to some bigger purpose. Because if truly, as we have discussed, if we have many leaders who are altruistic, who seek a better world, a better society, a better organization, and they are truly genuinely committed to it, the world will be a much better place. So let everybody go and fulfill their purpose and make the world a better place. Thank you.